Welcome back to Talkin TUF, everybody. This is episode 2, obviously corresponding with episode 2 of The Ultimate Fighter, season 30, which you can find on ESPN Plus or honestly probably somewhere on the internet. But we're back here with episode 2, doing a lot better than last week. It's beautiful outside right now. My arms are a little tired. One from a long day at work and the other one from an experimental shot, but we're back and we're doing it here for episode 2. So I guess before we get right into it, I'm gonna just say this time we're gonna have a more segmented approach to this show. So if you want to just skip around, I'll put some timestamps in the description. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So we're going to start off in this one just breaking down Kaytlin Neil a little bit, one of the fighters from Team Nunes, and she was fighting Helen Peralta at 125, and pretty much Kaytlin Neil, she started off the episode a little bit like emotional for multiple reasons, one of which being she thought that Pena was going to pick her before the contest started because she had commentated a fight of hers and like people... she had mutual friends with her, and that ended up not happening, and Amanda Nunes chose Kaytlin Neil, but that didn't really sway Kaytlin too much. It was just some added fuel to the fire, but unfortunately, she did get some unfortunate news. Her dad sadly passed away. They had a strained relationship. He had a lot of problems, and because of that, they had a toxic relationship, and she had to cut him off and stuff. So that was obviously horrible for her to deal with on a fight week. I mean, she got a call on in the show, and she was really emotional in the locker room. And then Amanda Nunes and Nina Nunes, they talked to her, privately and stuff, and really consoled her. I thought they did a great job with that. I thought actually the coaching in this episode was pretty phenomenal in general. I'll kind of get into Pena's in a little bit, but I thought that Amanda and Nina, they definitely showed a lot of compassion for Kaytlin when she needed it the most, so that was definitely interesting. But I guess before I get into Helen Peralta, I will say for Kaytlin Neil, from the tape that they were showing, she's a long striker, and she's also got really good grappling, so she's pretty much like an all-around threat. She was 5-4 going into this fight, and she actually was 4-1 in her last 5, so her record is a bit deceiving. She's gotten a lot better. Like I said, she's really good all around, and she trains out of Syndicate MMA in Las Vegas, which is a great gym, especially for female fighters. As she lays out, you got people like Roxanne Modafferi and JoJo Calderwood. Syndicate MMA is definitely a great gym, so that helps her out a lot, and I guess with that we'll get into Helen Peralta. So Helen Peralta, she's a bit of a different fighter than Kaytlin Neil. Helen is one of those people who just has absolute just knockout power in her hands. She fights crazy. I mean, she comes forward all the time, and she has the power to stop girls at that weight. But the one thing I do want to note, and I'll kind of get a little more into it in the fight breakdown, but in The Ultimate Fighter, like a lot of people, just to get the opportunity, sometimes they'll jump out of their actual weight class. And this is definitely the case for Helen Peralta. She's very small for women's flyweight, and that's because she's a strawweight naturally. So keep that in mind throughout the show, that some of these people aren't fighting at their natural weight classes. I even think in the last episode, Zach Pauga, he said he was a 205er naturally. So there you go. Like they dedicate a lot to get this opportunity, and sometimes you got to just take a risk and hop up or down a weight class. So some of the fighters do that, and Helen is one of them, and in this case she's going up in weight, and I think it was pretty obvious during the fight, and like I said, I'll get into that in a bit. But Helen Peralta, I will say this, she's an interesting one for sure. I liked her immediately. In the first episode, she was going right to the vodka, and I don't know, I figured they were putting that in the episode for a reason, and obviously we got to see in episode 2 how funny it was. She was talking a lot of shit, and she's just a funny person. She's very real, and she has just natural confidence, and she's honestly, she has an interesting training program too, because it's very solely focused on her, and she doesn't do a lot of weight training. She just does body weight stuff and different things like in small muscle groups. And she also has a cool situation. She trains out in Iowa, by the way. She has a cool situation out in Iowa where she kind of like, she just sits in an ice pond pretty much as her cold plunge, and then she gets to go in like her buddy's sauna just to warm up, and it's like a good hot cold for recovery. And I'm like, that's actually amazing. I mean, obviously, in a gym like that, you're not going to be getting the same type of looks probably that you'd get in Syndicate in Kaytlin Neil's case, but I don't know, I found it pretty interesting, and I think like she's doing all the right things. So I mean, in reality, what difference does it make? But I guess just besides that, like I said, she hits like a train. I think she has underrated grappling, like, 'cause she has pretty good takedown defense and scrambles, but she's definitely known for her hands, and she's there to knock people out, and that's her goal. She wants to finish the fight, and that's what she was saying going into this one, and I guess we'll just get right into the fight. So before we get right into the fight, I will say this again. Both coaches, Coach Nunes and Coach Pena, they are doing a fantastic job so far. I mean, Juliana has such great energy with her team, and she's so locked in. And Amanda, obviously, I think that the situation with Kaytlin and her dad definitely proved that she's there and really invested. And I kind of questioned that in the first episode, but you know how it is in reality television. They cut it up to tell a different story. But I will say this. It is pretty funny that both of these fighters said that they were expecting to get picked by the opposite coach. Because Kaytlin Neil, she has like a more all-around style. She is like a pretty good grappler. So she wanted to tighten that up with Juliana, considering that she kind of had some mutual like acquaintances and stuff. And Helen Peralta, she has a similar style to Amanda Nunes, and she always was a big fan, so she figured that she was for sure going to get picked by her. But no, she got picked by Juliana. So it is kind of interesting how things work out sometimes. That was one of the things that Helen was talking about when she was drunk. She was saying how she was pretty mad that she was picked by Juliana at first, but I like that her mentality was like, all right, well, I'm just going to stick it to her then and beat her girl. So getting right into the fight, you could see right away that Kaytlin was a lot longer and like just more naturally in the weight class. Like I said, Helen Peralta's a natural 115er, and she actually has she has a good win over Cheyenne Velismas, formerly Cheyenne Bays, if some of you guys know her better like that. But she's fought Kay Hansen, a couple other people, and pretty much she's just, I don't know, I think it's just she wasn't ready to go up to 125 because Kaytlin was a lot longer, and you could see in round one that like Helen had some problems closing the distance, and when she did, they would just lock up in the clinch, and there was actually a lot of clinch work in this one. So honestly, like, it seemed like Kaytlin Neil was trying not to be super risky because she knew how hard Peralta hits, and because of that, that's why we saw a lot of clinch work. But honestly, despite that, like, it was pretty close. Even worked by like both of them, but I gave it personally to Helen Peralta first round just because of more power punches landed. But in round two, it had even less action. Like, it was weird because everybody was expecting Helen Peralta to just go out there and just like, like a marauder, just kind of come out there swinging for the fences. But now she fought very composed, almost too composed, as we'll find out. But in round two, there was just a lot less action. She seemed like more hesitant to close the distance, and because of that, Kaytlin Neil was landing with more volume. She was working her jab really well in that round, and because of all that, I gave round two to Kaytlin Neil pretty clearly. And then round three, because it did go into the sudden victory rounds, which I agreed with. Like I said, I had it 1-1. So going into the sudden victory round, and the way that it works, the sudden victory round is like judged on its own. So the winner of that round, I'm pretty sure, wins the decision. And pretty sure I'm right about that. Yeah. But because of that, though, it was, I don't know, like, neither of them really had like crazy urgency throughout that whole fight. I mean, I personally gave round three to Helen, because again, like round one, I thought she landed more power punches, but Kaytlin Neil, I will say this, landed a lot more than she did in round one and round three. So I can understand, like, all these, like, well, round two not as much, but rounds one and three were like very, very close. That's the thing. So I could see like why they could give it to Neil, and obviously in the end they did give it to Kaytlin Neil, probably for more volume. And I can't be too mad at it. I mean, it's almost like that strawweight title. Well, actually, no, it's not almost like that strawweight title fight. I can't name many fights that looked like that fight, but it's just I don't know. The lack of urgency, I think, was really a problem for Helen Peralta, and she seemed, like I said, to have problems closing the distance. And I don't know. I mean, because of that, I feel like she fought well against a girl who was clearly bigger than her and probably too big. And I think that it'd be good if they gave her a shot at 115 in the UFC, or maybe one more fight outside of it. And if you win, you get in. Because, like I said, you don't have to win the Ultimate Fighter to prove that you're worthy of being in the UFC. Plenty of people who are UFC mainstays who didn't win, like I said in episode 1. But, yeah, I think she's showed like enough potential that I feel like you should get her maybe a win or two outside of the UFC, and then maybe pop her back in there at her actual weight class at 115, because you could tell that size difference really was the biggest factor in that fight. Not taken away from Kaytlin Neil, she fought perfectly pretty much using her length. That's like what you should do. So I thought it was a close fight. Not as good of a fight as the first one. It's kind of funny. I said in episode 1 that you'd probably see that the heavyweight fights would be slugfests and like with the cardio tailing off towards the end, and that's what that first fight was. And then this fight was a lot more technical than that. So I think it sets the tone for the season. And so next episode, we got the fight that I was talking about a tiny bit in episode 1, Mitchell Sipe versus Muhammad Usman. They had a great face-off. They were talking so much shit to each other. I'm so excited for that. Muhammad Usman, he's a lot like his brother. I'll say that. Like the way he talks, the way he looks, like the mean mug. It's really funny to me. But I can't wait for that fight, because Mitchell was talking in episode 1 about it. So now we get to see the build-up, and hopefully a really great fight. So catch you next week for episode 3.